Interpersonal and intrapersonal communication are two fundamental aspects of human interaction, each serving distinct yet interconnected purposes. They're both complex and nuanced concepts requiring a combination of practical, face-to-face experience and academic reading to fully understand the dynamic between the two. Even then, as humans, we make mistakes, miscommunicate, and let our biases get the better of us. Of course, it's complicated by nature. But I need to pass this oral communications class, so I'm gonna tackle it anyway using the only thing I have confidence in. Myself? Of course not. It's my knowledge of Japanese cartoons, or as we kids call it, anime. Precisely the 579 titles I've completed since the pandemic. I'm going, to the best of my ability, explain, compare, and contrast both interpersonal and intrapersonal communication through the lens of these two shows, Boi the Rock and Frieren, Beyond Journey's End. To begin with, let's examine the first show, Boi the Rock. The original story was written and illustrated by Aki Hamaji and later adapted into an anime by Cloverworks Studios, directed by Saito Keiichiro in the fall of 2022. This name will be relevant later on. Its protagonist, Hitori Goto, nicknamed Bocchi by her friends, which comes from the term Hitoribocchi meaning loner, struggles with extreme social anxiety which makes forming relationships a constant uphill battle. She often finds herself unable to express her thoughts and emotions, especially in social situations. Though she dreams of one day making it big in a band and being admired by the masses, she's held back by her intense fear of social interactions, creating an invisible barrier between her and the world. Bocchi's experience is a near-perfect demonstration of how difficult it can be to engage in interpersonal communication. Anxiety, fear of judgment, and low self-esteem cloud one's ability to connect, though it's not all doom and gloom. Throughout the series, Bocchi's journey is marked by moments of growth in her interpersonal skills. These moments occur when she's invited to join a band. This is where we're introduced to the main cast. Nijika, Ryo, and Kita will all play a vital role in supporting Bocchi, not only as her fellow band members of Kesaku Band, but as her friends. For the first time, she navigates friendships, and this highlights elements like listening, brainstorming, and empathy, showcasing how effective interpersonal communication can foster deep relationships among individuals. In Bocchi's case, her fellow band members. However, these connections don't come easily. Each conversation is a battle for Bocchi, displayed through her overactive and exaggerated imagination, adapted perfectly in the anime. And it's through the aftermath of these battles that we see her transform into a more confident version of herself. Now that we're halfway through, let's take a look at the other side of this conversation and see what insight we can gain in this next show. Frieren Beyond Journey's End. The original story was written by Yamada Kanehito and illustrated by Abe Tsukasa, and was also adapted into an anime in the fall of 2023. Helmed by Studio Madhouse, and again directed by Saito Keiichiro, takes a more introspective approach by focusing on intrapersonal communication. In this world, elves are capable of living for thousands of years. Frieren, an Elven Mage, inevitably outlives her human companions, with whom she once took in a legendary quest to slay the Demon King. After the journey's end, Frieren is left to reflect on her experiences, particularly the passage of time and the fleeting nature of human life. Her seemingly endless lifespan from the point of view of humans forces her into deep introspection, where she grapples with the weight of her memories and the emotional detachment that comes from outliving everyone she's ever cared about. This is what this series is about. Her journey is marked by self-discovery and coming to terms with emotions she's often neglected, like grief and nostalgia. Now, this isn't to say that Bocchi doesn't rely on her own internal monologue to get by, and vice versa. It's more on the central themes of both shows. Bocchi wants to make friends, but she's too anxious to do so. Frieren wants to understand the true value of the friendships she once had with those who've already departed. Similar themes cross over and intersect. Peak fiction recognizes peak fiction. Now back to the topic. Through reflective moments in the show, often given through flashbacks, Frieren begins to understand her own emotional depth and the impact her companions had on her life, despite her initial inability to fully appreciate it in the moment. In this sense, Frieren emphasizes how interpersonal communication, self-reflection, and internal monologue can be just as transformative as external relationships. It's about understanding oneself and making peace with the past. Comparing these two characters represents the different paths toward personal growth that interpersonal and intrapersonal communication can offer. Bocchi's growth is driven by her efforts to break through her shell of social anxiety and pave new meaningful connections with others. Her character arc shows that external interactions, communicating with friends and strangers, and performing live for the first time in front of a crowd are essential for overcoming personal obstacles and finding one's place in a group. Contrast this with Frieren. Her journey for most of her life is largely solitary. Given hundreds of years to ponder the emotional consequence of her long life, her growth is internal, dwelling on the words said by her companion, remembering the lessons she was taught by her master, and teaching a new generation will eventually surpass her. Ultimately, I think Boi the Rock and Frieren provide two distinct yet complementary perspectives on communication. While one series focuses on external interactions among friends and navigating social challenges, the other delves into internal reflection that informs one's understanding of self in relation to others. Together, these narratives underscore the importance of both forms of communication in fostering meaningful connections and personal development. Personally, I could have chosen many more shows that encapsulate these two forms of communication. This was only supposed to be a 6-minute video, but I yapped to 7. The medium of anime is incredibly diverse in its storytelling and characters. It's just that these two have had a direct impact and have informed my own way of thinking. It's crazy to think how much influence this art form has had on so many people across the globe and how many are affected by it on an emotional level. But at the end of the day, it wouldn't have been possible without the tireless work of animators and the production team behind the scenes making these shows look eye-wateringly gorgeous. I'd like to thank them for their hard work. お疲れ様でした。
でも私確信したんだ。ボッチちゃんがいたら夢を叶えられるって。だからこれからもたくさん見せてね。